It didn't seem, and Paul was so natural and relaxed, and he enjoyed it, and we knocked it out really quick.
At the age of 82, Mick Jagger rock Yang Dari The Rolling Stones, Yang Media. Yang Jagger Lima Dari Rolling Stones, Yang Reporter Dari Yang Jagger Label. Mixering Dan Mana Yang, Pun, Ada Yang Rolling Stones, Nada Jagger Kali Dari Rasa Personal, Dan Yang Band. Media Pun, Ada Yang, Ada Pulla Yang Jagger The Rolling Stones. The significance of Mick Jagger's revelation lies not only in the songs themselves, but also in the timing. At 82, Jagger stands as one of the last living giants of rock and roll, a man who has witnessed the genre's birth, evolution, and global dominance. His career stretches back to the early 1960s, when the Rolling Stones emerged as a rebellious counterpart to the Beatles, and together they shaped modern popular music. Over 6 decades, the Stones have released more than 30 studio albums and countless hits, each becoming a soundtrack to different eras. To ask Jagger to narrow that history into just 5 songs is almost unimaginable, yet that is what makes his choices so compelling. Fans and historians alike see this moment as more than a personal reflection. It is a rare glimpse into the mind of an artist who has lived through cultural revolutions, industry transformations, and personal reinventions. For Jagger to highlight certain tracks suggests not only personal attachment, but also what he considers the true milestones of the Stones' legacy. In the eyes of music journalists, this is not just a casual list. It is a statement of self-identity at a stage in life when legacy matters more than chart performance. And when someone with Jagger's authority speaks, the entire world of music listens closely, searching for deeper meaning in the songs that shaped both his career and the broader cultural landscape. Long before this latest revelation, Mick Jagger had offered scattered hints about the songs he personally valued most, though never in the form of a definitive list. In interviews stretching back decades, he often the question of favorites, suggesting instead that different songs held meaning at different times. For example, in the late 1970s, he once remarked that Moonlight Mile carried a sense of vulnerability and reflection that captured his state of mind during grueling tour. In the 1980s, he described Salt of the Earth as a rare piece that resonated beyond the band's usual audience, touching on social themes in a way that still felt authentic to the Stones. In later years, he admitted a fondness for performing blues standards like Little Red Rooster, not only because of its raw power, but also because it reminded him of the band's earliest days playing small clubs. These offhand remarks, spread out over years and buried in magazine features, television specials, and even fan Q&A sessions, painted a fragmented picture of Jagger's preferences, but never provided a full ranking. What made this recent disclosure so startling was that it finally connected those fragments into a single narrative. It confirmed some suspicions. Yes, Jagger still treasures those introspective deep cuts, but it also suggested that his personal favorites are not always aligned with commercial hits like Satisfaction or Start Me Up. Instead, they reveal the inner artist, the man who values mood, message, and memory as much as fame or radio play. Reporters note that these earlier clues now seem like breadcrumbs leading to the bigger picture. And in hindsight, his 5-song revelation feels less like a surprise and more like a puzzle piece finally snapping into place. When the list surfaced, the first shock came not from what topped it, but from what Jagger ranked at the bottom. His 5 and 4 picks, songs that already carry weight but are far from the Stones' most obvious global anthems. At number 5, Jagger reportedly chose Moonlight Mile, the closing track from the 1971 album Sticky Fingers. For years, critics have pointed to this haunting ballad as a hidden masterpiece, one that strips away the bravado and reveals a more fragile, weary side of Jagger. To hear him elevated into his top 5 was validation for fans who always believed it deserved more recognition. At number 4, the surprise deepened. Salt of the Earth, from the 1968 album Beggar's Banquet, a song that pays tribute to working-class people and blends gospel influences with a social conscience. It is not a song the Stones perform often, nor is it a chart staple, but it embodies themes that Jagger has revisited in later interviews: class, solidarity, and the feeling of being grounded in the real struggles of ordinary lives. Music journalists quickly noted that both of these early picks revealed Jagger's leaning towards substance over spectacle, signaling that his favorites are not necessarily about fame or financial success, but about personal resonance and lyrical depth. By choosing Moonlight Mile and Salt of the Earth, He effectively reminded audiences that beneath the swaggering persona of a rock superstar lies a man who, at least occasionally, values vulnerability and meaning more than stadium anthems. Fans online were divided. Some applauded his honesty, while others grumbled that leaving off tracks like Jack Flash or Gimme Shelter felt almost unthinkable. Yet these first two picks set the tone for the rest of the list. Jagger was going personal, not predictable. As the countdown moved closer to the top, Mick Jagger's 3 and 2 picks offered a fascinating blend of personal emotion and sheer rock energy, demonstrating the duality that has defined his career. Coming in at number 3 was Little Red Rooster, the blues standard famously covered by the Stones in 1964. While casual fans might not immediately think of this track as essential, Jagger's choice highlights his deep connection to the band's roots. This was the song that brought authentic Chicago blues into the British mainstream, and for Jagger it remains a reminder of the raw, unfiltered passion that launched their career. By elevating Little Red Rooster, he paid tribute not only to his own beginnings, but also to the music that inspired the Stones in the first place. Then came number 2, and this is where the revelation turned heads. Jagger reportedly placed Wild Horses near the very top of his list. Unlike the swagger of their more aggressive hits, Wild Horses is a ballad drenched in melancholy and longing, often interpreted as a meditation on love, distance, and regret. For Jagger to single it out suggests that, even after decades of fame, it is the quieter, more introspective songs that resonate with him most deeply. Critics immediately seized on the pairing of Little Red Rooster and Wild Horses as symbolic, one track representing the Stones' raw origins, the other representing their ability to craft timeless, emotional ballads. Together, they bridged two extremes of the Stones' sound and two sides of Jagger's personality. The bluesman who cut his teeth in smoky clubs and the poet who could bare his soul in front of millions. It was at this stage that fans realized his list was not just about greatest hits, but about building a narrative of who he is as an artist. At the very top of Mick Jagger's list, the coveted one spot, reportedly sits Gimme Shelter, the 1969 classic that has long been considered one of the Rolling Stones' defining achievements. For many fans, this choice felt both inevitable and revealing because Gimme Shelter is not just a song, it is a statement. Written during a time of social unrest, war, and cultural upheaval, the track captured the tension of an era and remains eerily relevant decades later. Jagger himself has occasionally spoken about the intensity of recording it, with Mary Clayton's searing guest vocals transforming the track into something almost apocalyptic in tone. By naming it his favorite, Jagger seemed to confirm that the song's enduring power goes beyond performance. It is about history, atmosphere, and the way music can bottle a moment in time. Music journalists noted that this selection tied the list together. After choosing songs that reflected vulnerability, social conscience, and personal roots, he crowned the list with a track that represents the Stones at their most politically charged and artistically ambitious. For Jagger, Gimme Shelter is not just about rock and roll swagger. It is about bearing witness to chaos and finding a way to turn turmoil into art. At 82, looking back at the highs and lows of his life and the world around him, it is no surprise that he would hold up a song that has stood as both a warning and a masterpiece. Fans online quickly embraced this pick as the one they could universally agree on, calling it the soundtrack of survival, and noting that, if any Stones song deserved to be remembered forever, it was this one. The moment Mick Jagger's 5-song list circulated, the reactions were as explosive as one might expect for a band whose fan base spans multiple generations. Longtime Stones devotees took to social media platforms, some praising his honesty while others expressed disbelief at the omissions. The absence of juggernauts like Satisfaction, Paint It Black, and Start Me Up led to heated debates, with critics asking whether Jagger had deliberately avoided the obvious crowd pleasers in favor of songs that felt more personal. Some fans argued that his choices, particularly Moonlight Mile and Salt of the Earth, proved that Jagger was being sincere, spotlighting deep cuts that might not sell out stadiums but meant something to him privately. Meanwhile, skeptics questioned whether the list was even authentic, pointing out that Jagger has a history of downplaying favorites and often shrugs off such rankings as too restrictive. Music journalists echoed this skepticism, noting that while the list aligns with some of his past comments, it could also be a case of selective reporting or even misinterpretation. The controversy, however, only amplified interest. Suddenly, everyone had their own version of what Jagger's list should have been. From radio DJs hosting call-in shows to online forums buzzing with alternative rankings, the debate took on a life of its own. What is undeniable is that, authentic or not, the idea of Mick Jagger nomming his top 5 has reignited global fascination with the Rolling Stones, catalog pulling younger listeners into songs they might otherwise have skipped and reminding older fans why the band's music has remained relevant for over half a century. Beyond the arguments about which songs made the cut and which didn't, many observers have suggested that Mick Jagger's list offers something far more important, a glimpse into the artist's state of mind at this stage in his life. At 82, Jagger is not simply a performer still filling stadiums. He is a man reflecting on his legacy, on the music that shaped him, and on the pieces that may continue to speak for him long after he is gone. The inclusion of songs like Moonlight Mile and Wild Horses points to a preference for vulnerability and emotion, a side of Jagger that contrasts with the strutting showman image he has carried for decades. Meanwhile, choosing Salt of the Earth and Little Red Rooster suggests that he remains deeply connected to both social consciousness and the blues roots that define the Stones from the beginning. Finally, crowning the list with Gimme Shelter positions him not just as a rock star, but as a cultural witness, someone who lived through turbulent times and helped immortalize them in sound. Taken together, the list reads less like a collection of greatest hits and more like an autobiographical map, songs tied to memory, conviction, and survival. Reporters covering the story emphasized that this was not simply a ranking for entertainment value, but a subtle message from Jagger himself, telling the world who he truly is beneath the headlines and the spectacle. In many ways, the list functions like a farewell letter, not because Jagger is stepping away, but because he is finally willing to define what mattered most in a career too vast to summarize. In the aftermath of Jagger's alleged revelation, comparisons quickly surfaced with other favorite Stones songs lists that have circulated over the years. Fans were quick to point out that in past interviews, both Mick and Richards have floated different titles as their personal highlights, creating a patchwork of potential rankings that rarely align. For instance, Jagger has in the past praised Brown Sugar as one of the band's most impactful songs, while Richards has leaned toward Jack Flash as his definitive pick. Meanwhile, critics and biographers often include Paint It Black and Sympathy for the Devil in their own unofficial top 5s, arguing that those tracks embody the Stones' cultural influence more directly than quieter songs like Moonlight Mile. Some even noted that Rolling Stone magazine's own Greatest Rolling Stones Songs ranking heavily features radio staples Jagger did not include here. This contrast has fueled speculation that his newly revealed list may be less about objective greatness and more about personal memory, songs tied to specific times in his life rather than global recognition. The fact that different lists exist, each pointing in different directions, underscores the difficulty of pinning down something as fluid as personal taste, especially for an artist who has performed thousands of songs across decades. Reporters observing the debate noted that the variety of rumored lists only adds to the intrigue. Was this latest version definitive, or just one of many ways Jagger has chosen to frame his legacy? Whatever the case, the discrepancies have kept the conversation alive, ensuring that the question of which Stones songs matter most remains one of rock's most enduring debates. As the dust settles around Mick Jagger's unexpected 5-song revelation, one thing is clear. Whether fans agree or not, the conversation has reignited global interest in the Rolling Stones and the legacy they continue to build. For journalists, the list is less about music charts and more about memory, meaning, and the quiet honesty of a man reflecting at 82 on what truly mattered to him as an artist. The omission of stadium staples like Satisfaction or Start Me Up may frustrate some, but it also forces us to see Jagger as more than a performer. He is a man who values depth, storytelling, and history just as much as he values fame and swagger. His choices remind us that behind every global anthem lies of overlooked gems, each with the power to define moments in ways that go beyond popularity. Whether the list was meant as a definitive statement or simply a passing reflection, it has sparked fresh debates, drawn new listeners to old tracks, and underscored the timeless impact of the Stones' music. And now, the question turns to you. If you had to choose only 5 Rolling Stones songs to define Mick Jagger's legacy, which ones would you pick? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more deep dives into the stories behind the world's most legendary artists. After all, the conversation about the Stones isn't just history. It's still being written, and your voice is part of it.